Man, that sounds good. What's going on, Hoof listeners? Welcome to the Week 7 Sunday preview. Anthony and I here ready to get you dialed up for the weekend. Get you locked in, get your picks set. Anthony, we have a banner up right now for those who are watching, but those who are listening, you can't see it. Anthony hit his head while painting. He just told me.
Yeah. I know I'm getting ready for my MMA fight. My MMA.
Oh, yeah, I forgot the story. See, I was supposed to
Yes.
say MMA fight. My fault.
That's right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll be on pay-per-view next month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Just warming
prepping
up with the paintbrush in the
the
basement.
sparring, the sparring got intense.
Yeah.
You should see the other guy. All right.
There you go. Good one. That's a good line. That's one of those lines that last forever.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's new? We just had the Buffalo Morning Brew the other day, and we broke down the Bills' offense pretty good. Now we're moving on, right? It's over.
Yeah.
It's in bed.
Right.
The Bills have 2 games coming up. You have New England on Saturday, and then Tampa Bay
Yeah,
on Thursday.
I guess we got to alter. We haven't talked about it, but we're going to have to alter our schedule for next week.
This is true.
Or go a little earlier pregame. Pregame live. We could do a pregame live show. Yeah.
I like that little Thursday/Sunday preview next week as the Bills get ready to play Tampa Bay. So that'll be a lot of fun. Definitely looking forward to that. But first, Bills got to beat an inferior team, right? The 1-5 Patriots. Bills are headed to Foxborough. And there's a lot of storylines out about the Patriots right now. I mean, there's something about going 1-5, right? If they were, let's say, 3-3, we wouldn't be having these conversations. But 1-5, things start to come out, right? Oh, there's been rumors, even going back to last year about this is Bill Belichick's last year. Heard rumors from Albert Breer on Rich Eisen's show about is it Jared, or I think it's Jared Mayo, who's the defensive coordinator for the Patriots, will likely take over head coaching duties.
They like
Very
him,
interesting. Yeah. And he did turn down some head coaching jobs last year. So I feel like when the team goes 1-5, the fan base is now okay with tanking and making changes. Now all these things come out.
Yeah, well, obviously. I mean, and like in our group text earlier today, you got to celebrate it, right? It's always fun when the Patriots are losing and they're a mess and they're talking about changing coaches and high draft picks and tanking and everything else, changing quarterbacks. It's just fun to see after 20 years of suffering at their hands, So Belichick, man, though, when you think long term about him now, the question becomes his legacy of being one of the greatest coaches of all time just because he had Tom Brady, right? Is it just because he had Tom Brady? Obviously you got every cheating scandal under the book that Bill Belichick had. Plus you got, his previous records as a head coach, which weren't great before he came to New England and had Tom Brady. And now if you look at his post-Tom Brady years, it's very average and now bad, right? So Bill Belichick's tainting his own legacy, trying to chase after, the wins record, which he's still like 30 behind, right? We went over this before, I think in the preseason. That's 3 solid seasons of 9 wins. And right now he's nowhere near that. So now you need 3 more solid seasons of 9 wins. Yeah, I just don't see it happening for him. He might go on to be a coach of some scrub team for another 5 years so he can break the record, but that's stupid. Yeah. I just retire, man. You should have just retired when Tom Brady left and let them move on and figure it out without you both. So when they fell on their face, you didn't have to be part of it.
Right. I think, if we know anything about Bill Belichick, his father coached the Navy football team for, well into his elder years. So, I mean, I think Bill Belichick just likes football and he doesn't care what people think. And he'll just keep coaching, right? That's his whole life. He's recently single, I heard. Divorced his wife or girlfriend or whatever. I don't get into that stuff too much, but
yeah,
I think he's just a coach through and through, and he'll go right in until the health will have to get him out of the game. I think he's one of those guys. But back to your point about his legacy and stuff. We're living very much in the here and now with Bill Belichick, and we pay extra attention, and we hate the legacy because his team beat our team for so long. But I think when the dust settles and you look back on it, it's not so much Tom Brady. It's more about the accomplishment and the genius of the team, right? Because even let's say Tom Brady's the reason they win a lot. He still has to build a team, a competitive team year in and year out. You know what I mean? He still has to manage the team. So there's a lot of credit there. They've
Sure.
accomplished more than any other team in history. If we go back and look at Bill Walsh and Joe Montana, you don't, no one even thinks of the other
Good coach.
You know what I mean?
I'm a good coach. Yeah, he's a good coach. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Give him a reason to cheat and he'll do it, right? I mean, that's the thing. His legacy there, that's the thing for me is clearly he was one who was not afraid to know that he's going over the boundaries and still do it with the rules. Which is, all right, say what you want about it. It led to some benefit, obviously. They won games. Did they need it or not? I don't know, but they won games with everything despite that. And the one thing I always wondered about Bill Belichick is the coaching trees. You hear about everybody's coaching tree and how they did well. His has not fared too well when they go on to become head coaches. A lot of the guys got fired after 1 or 2 seasons and never became a head coach again. Obviously, there's a few who have caught on, but you could do the laundry list and say, like, okay, none of these guys succeeded without being under Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
Certainly the failures, Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, Josh McDaniels, you got to chop it up. I mean, I know there's still being played out, but up to this point, Josh McDaniels has not fared well. And Bill O'Brien, I guess, is probably the most successful. Who am I missing?
Yeah, there's a bunch. I mean, just that list alone, it's nobody who is a distinguished head coach in the league, really.
I feel like Bill O'Brien had a good run with the
Texans. He did.
They won the division, number of years.
But he's not a head coach anymore, right? He's working for Bill again. Why? Because nobody else wanted him. And there's a few who are still, but I'm thinking of like the Andy Reid coaching tree, the go on and on, the Bill Parcells coaching tree, right? Like those are guys whose legacy was moved on with the guys they coached up and left behind, right? And took over basically underneath them, from under them. And I don't see that with Bill Belichick. Maybe he's just not that type of guy, I don't know. I give him credit. There's no question he is a very skilled coach who can see things and draw things up and get his players to do things. And that's what you need in a coach. But legacy as greatest of all time, I don't know. I see a lot of reasons to vote for other people in those categories right now, at least.
Yeah, fair. And what do you think the reasons are for their failures? And really, it's Mac Jones comes to mind when you think about why this team is now 1-5. Why the Patriots are in this situation, talking about firing Bill Belichick and tanking the season and all that stuff. Bringing on Mac Jones was it wasn't done correctly, I think.
Correct.
You could say.
Yeah, right. I blame Bill Belichick, the GM, right? That's the other part of his duties. He might be an excellent, amazing, one of the greatest coaches of all time. He definitely is not so when it comes to GM, right? And I don't think he should have both of those duties. Really, anybody having both those has never really worked out well for somebody. So I think the fact that Mac Jones came in as a rookie and exceeded expectations and looked pretty good and looked like he was something to build around. And then instead of doing the logical thing and building around him, they kind of focused on other areas, brought in a defensive coordinator to be offensive coordinator, right? And said, let's try this. Yeah, this sounds smart. Yeah. So instead of just putting your young quarterback through the motions so that he can go and grow and provide him with things around him to build and grow on, they tried to pull a rabbit out of a hat and reinvent the wheel, and it didn't work at all. And Mac Jones had a rough year last year, and now off to another start, new offensive coordinator. Okay, we're going to try this. By the way, here's a few new weapons around you since the other ones we brought in didn't seem to work out with you. Hunter Henry's still there, obviously. And I just think that Mac Jones was screwed by the organization as well. If they had given him the same attention as a Jalen Hurts or, you name the guy who the team is built around them and the offense is built around their skill set, maybe he would have succeeded better. But now he seems like an inevitable flop.
Yeah. And it shows, right? The stats, like Scoring percentage, they only score 18% of their drives. They only score on 18% of their drives. It's dead last in the NFL. Number one's Miami with 50%. So, I mean, that gap is enormous. So it's just the stats are all there to say, yeah, the offense is probably the reason they're not doing great. And I agree with you 100%. It didn't do enough to help Mac Jones. And Mac Jones is one of those players who needed a lot of help, right? We all know he wasn't going to be, one of the elite guys, or even we were just hoping he'd be average if you're in his corner and hoping that he can integrate in the NFL. But yeah, we all know he needed a lot of help around him, and they just kind of failed to do that, right? The receiving talent was questionable, right? I mean, re-signing Devontae Parker, right? You bring in Juju Smith-Schuster, who Kansas City just said they didn't want. And they're not really, they've never really had like a productive receiver. I mean, back in the later to early 2000s, okay. But, it seems like recently, last 10 years, they just kind of haven't had a productive receiver. You want to say Edelman, sure. A lot of that's Brady, but.
Right. I mean, and they brought in Hunter Henry to be the number one target, basically, and still don't quite run the offense in a way where it made Hunter Henry thrive. They had Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith for a minute there, got rid of Jonnu Smith because it just didn't work out, and they couldn't build on it. And they're a team that wants to run the ball. Don't get me wrong, right? Like, that's still their bread and butter. But even there, they broke it down. They had this great three-headed monster. And now it's Ramondre Stevenson, and okay, we signed Ezekiel Elliott and he's contributed, but it's not the balanced run game of unpredictability that it was for a long time.
Right, they're current 26th in the league in rushing yards.
Not great. Yeah,
I mean, there's been some bye weeks, so the stats are weird and the rankings are weird, but I don't think New England hasn't had a bye week, so to be that low,
and offensive line woes. I mean, obviously, Mac Jones is getting attacked a lot more, sacked a lot more, making bad decisions, probably because people are in his face and he's feeling the footsteps. So all in all, although a lot of blame goes on Mac Jones for his play this year, I don't think the team has supported him enough to succeed, both in last year failing to be the building block, the stepping stone of growth, and then this year, just the pieces around him not doing their job, making it harder for him. And after he's taken this step back in the 2022 regular season. So, I mean, all around not set up to succeed. I thought the defense alone would carry them to about 8-9 wins, and the offense would be at least good enough to do that, score 17 points. But we're looking at, 3 games without a touchdown? I mean, like, that's rough.
Oh, I remember there's 10 quarters between 2.5 games where the score was 86-3.
Yeah, that's
New England
rough.
had 3, right? So
So I mean, that's really bad. And now you run into this Buffalo Bills offense, right? I mean, the Bills offense has not looked great the last 2 games, but we know what they're capable of. This is a team that scored 38 and 40 points against other teams with supposedly decent defenses, which is what I would say the Pats have, when they're healthy. We were talking before that out of their 53-man roster, I think they have 57 guys listed as questionable. So you figure that one out. The IR guys are questionable even. Yeah. So it's ridiculous. Some of that is Bill Belichick,
strategy,
doing his. Tom Brady is listed as questionable to return too, but that's Bill Belichick's way of doing things. However, some of those guys do have significant injuries and still have not practiced, and they're going to be missing them against this potent Bills offense. And on the other side of the coin, the Bills can use this as a get right game for our offense and actually move the ball and establish the run and work in the pass and start working out the kinks of what you want to do. That's what I want to see in this game. Get creative, try some new things. This is your opportunity to say, okay, what works, what doesn't, let's do it.
Right. I think the Bill Belichick defense is still a challenge, right? He throws a lot of different looks at you. Josh always mentions you have to kind of read it on the fly. It's hard to watch film and get a tendency from the Patriots defense. So, but Josh has been good against New England, especially in New England. historically he's put up huge games. I remember the playoff game, the wild card game last year was the probably the best played football game I've ever seen. I mean, 7 for 7 on touchdown drives. I mean, that's unheard of, in the NFL, especially in the playoffs, especially in New England.
Perfect game, yeah, on the road.
So far, they really haven't had a lot of answers for Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs in previous games. But I think the Bills players do understand that, there's a lot of media out there saying the Patriots are tanky and they don't want to win, but that's certainly not the case, in my opinion. I mean, you're going to get a good effort from them. I mean, they've dropped 2 games. I think it was Dallas and New Orleans where they lost big, right? So it was Cowboys 38-3, the Saints 34-0. All the other games have been close, right? They kept up week 1 with Philly 25-20. They almost won that game. If the receiver puts 2 feet in, they have a chance to throw a touchdown there. With Miami, we know how good they've been. They only lost by a touchdown there, right? So it's been close. Even the Jets, right? And we know the Jets offense is struggling just like New England. So that one was more expected, but 15-10, right? Those are close games. And then obviously last week, 21-17 with the Raiders. But there was a safety in the last few plays. So it's really like 17-19, right? So they've been, if you want to say in games, right?
Close, yeah.
Close games. So you're going to get a good effort from them. It's just, it comes down to the Bills offense executing. What kind of game is this going to be? Is this going to be a Jets type game where we're going to play New England? It's going to be 15-10, right? No. And it could go either way, or the Bills just going to step up and show that they are as talented as we think, as talented as we know, and just shut this Patriots team down, right? If the Patriots end up 1-6, it's really going to get out of control. We're going to hear all kinds of media.
To me, it has to be the latter. You have to beat up on this team, right? Especially after underperforming in 2 straight games where you were the favorite, especially against the Giants, right? Where, you're this potent offense going against an injury riddle. This is the same storyline, basically, right? Except now you're on the road and it's a divisional opponent. So this game matters a heck of a lot more. So I think after stumbling and losing the game against Jacksonville, and then falling again at home, but finding a way to win against the Giants, now I feel like everything's going to be in focus. Okay, here's what we did in this 2-game period. Here's what didn't work. Here's what we're going to try. It's time to change this. Now, we're not going to run up the gut on 2nd and 15 anymore. Thank God. Ever again. Blast that to the moon. And figure it out a way to make it work. And no more excuses. Come out. Kick this team in the teeth. The defense has still been playing well, right? I'm worried if Hunter Henry, thankfully, has been still did not participate on Thursday. Not that I want the guy to be injured, but he is without a doubt the best weapon on the Patriots right now. And the Bills being injured on defense would have opened the window, in my mind, for Hunter Henry to have a big game. Right, where Mac Jones could keep dumping it off to him over the middle in the slot, attacking guys, either the cornerback or the linebacker who's on him, and being able to make plays, because Hunter Henry is a good weapon regardless. Sure. The fact that he's injured, though, is tough, because I don't think they have another guy that can step into that role and suddenly be a mismatch for our backup linebackers and cornerbacks and everything else that we have injuries at. So yeah, I think that's going to be a big part of it. If Hunter Henry doesn't play, I think the Patriots could get shut out. And the Bills defense alone, no matter what the Bills offense does, the defense alone going against the Patriots could completely shut them out.
Right, and Hunter Henry really hasn't been involved. Right, I think he had 1 catch last week, and then the week before that, 0. I know that because I played him in fantasy, and I'm actually it's a guillotine league, and I'm actually out because of him.
Yeah, he couldn't even get a catch.
So I mean, he's somebody got to pay attention to if you're the Bills defense. He's a big body, right? He's an athlete, big guy that's athletic. He's really good in the red zone, but I don't know if teams have been playing him well where he's not involved in the offense and they can't get him the ball, or he's just not in the game plan, but he just hasn't been involved at least the last 2 weeks, or as much as you would think.
Right, and maybe that is due to this injury. I don't know when this injury occurred, but like I said, he still did not practice on Thursday. If he's able to get a practice in tomorrow, he'll probably still be listed as questionable, game time decision, but might be able to play in the game. If he doesn't practice tomorrow, likely that means he's not playing in the game, right? So big advantage to the Bills if that's the case. But even if he does play, clearly he's beat up. Like you said, they've been mismanaging him. That was their best chance. Even if he plays, he's still their best chance. That doesn't mean they're going to perfectly execute what I was talking about and attack the Bills. And, I don't see that as being a major vulnerability that all of a sudden the Bills are, at risk of going toe-to-toe with the Patriots. But this is still a divisional matchup, right? We haven't even gotten to the line in this game yet, which is -8.5.
Yeah, let's jump
to
in.
me, just a smidge too high, right? The Bills' offense has been flat the last 2 weeks. The Patriots' defense has still done what they've done this year. And although I think the Bills are the better team, this line to me should be more like 7, right? And then it would be more enticing to bet the Bills. It's a divisional matchup. We say this every time. Divisional matchups always end up being close because you know each other. You have game plan for each other. These are the biggest games, so all your players are up and ready for them. The Bills should stomp a mud hole in New England. And again, that's my expectation as both a fan and an observer. The Bills need to make a statement versus the Patriots and win by 30 points, right? They need to do everything they can to embarrass them and make themselves look like the best team in the NFL in order to bounce back from the last 2 games. If they don't and they just eke out a win, then there are going to be a lot of questions around, is this good enough? Is that good enough? Do they need to upgrade here? And there's going to be way too much questioning going on. I don't care, as much as coaches and players say, oh, that doesn't happen in the locker room. BS, right? Bullshit, because it's going to be in your head. You're going to be thinking, if you're Gabe Davis, wow, we barely eked out these games, and now I might be at risk of being, losing playing time if they trade for somebody who's an upgrade over me. That's just one example, but all of those guys, obviously, who are starters that are struggling and not looking as good could be upgraded on, right, in a trade.
Yeah.
So I think that this game matters so much to the Buffalo Bills, and they're going to be up and ready for it. We've seen McDermott do this kind of thing before and have a team bounce back. We've seen Josh Allen do this before and bounce back, and against the Patriots, no less. So although Bill Belichick is a good defensive mastermind and all that, and I expect him to pull out all the stops and be ready, the fact of the matter is I expect more the Bills players to execute, right?
Sure.
And that's been a big failure the last couple games.
And I think they expect that too. They know this as well. If you watch Josh Allen's press conferences, he kept saying, we'll get it corrected. We owe the defense. Like, they're well aware that they need to figure out who they are on offense, because I think their identity is they're a high-flying offense in the NFL who can go toe-to-toe with anybody, right? So they need to prove to themselves that, yes, that is still true. And I think if you go into New England and like you said, win by 3 touchdowns, that's going to be a confidence builder moving forward. And because your identity is back, right? Okay, we are who we thought we were, and we're rolling, right? What's also interesting about the Patriots defense, they're number 2 in the league in blitz percentage. 43% of the time a blitz is called. So I think that, and that's a little bit counterintuitive to what the Giants and the Jaguars have been doing. I mean, they'll set up some blitz packages, but it's really, they rush 4, they contain Josh, and then they drop coverage, and that coverage moves, when Josh moves. Right. And that's been pretty effective, right? I mean, I think the Giants really played their linebackers to pay attention to the gaps and just not let Josh Allen go through there. Not necessarily blitz, but just play lower, right, in the box. So I think that'll be really interesting to see how New England approaches that, because it does look like they're a heavy blitz team this season. Maybe trying to catch them off, but they're playing Josh Allen, who's, beat them a lot in the blitz in previous years. I think Josh likes when they blitz, like you can throw it deeper, right? So that'll be really fun to watch, kind of the chess match on the Bills offense, Patriots defense side of the ball. The other side, I mean, the Bills defense just needs to keep doing what they're doing, right? Stop the run, make Mac Jones, force him to throw it, and I think you'll have a couple turnovers. And that side I feel really comfortable with, right?
Yes. I don't think it's not like the offense has to have a perfect game either, the Bills offense. I don't think they have to have a perfect game. You could come out and score on your first drive. Say you only get a field goal. Okay, well, at least you got a field goal. It's the starting point. Then your next drive, you have to punt. That's not ideal as long as you held New England to nothing, right? The defense is holding up. Then you score a touchdown. Then, you have to punt again. Then you kick a field goal, right? As long as they build up a big lead so that the final score looks like the Bills controlled this game from start to finish, as they should, then I think that is a complete W, right? That's what you need in this game. You cannot let New England come in and score, and then you're down, and then you're trying to panic, because again, that makes you look like a vulnerable team.
Right.
That is what you are at that point. And you got to establish the identity. You got to.
For sure. All right, let's get into the line here. Who you taking and by how much? Are you touching this 8.5 or are you passing on this 8.5?
I mean, I'm taking the Bills minus 8.5 because I do expect them to win by 2 touchdowns or more. But betting wise, it would not be my advice to take this. It's not in my pick six. Let's put it that way, right? It's not one of my pick six.
There's not enough sample size of what the Bills are this year, right? In the last 2 weeks tells you maybe they have real issues. It's not just a fluke thing. We don't know, right? So I wouldn't touch this either. However, if I had to, I think I would go Buffalo. I would take the points in Buffalo. So, all right, let's go to the next game. We good here? Anything else you want to add? We good? I think
that's it. Good. Bills got to dominate start to finish.
All right, let's roll into Cleveland at Indianapolis. Cleveland -3, heading to Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson's out. I think Deshaun Watson coming back. Is that true?
Today he practiced. That is true. It was his first practice since I think September 22nd or something like that. So, yes, so he did practice today. That seems to indicate that he'll be back for the game, but you never know.
Yeah,
obviously.
So with that, I take Cleveland. I think they're a much better team with Deshaun Watson, and I think that's obvious. But if they played San Francisco last week with Deshaun Watson, I think the score would have been a lot more because PJ Walker made a lot of mistakes.
He did, yes, and I agree. It's the Cleveland's defense really that won them that game, and I think Cleveland's defense is going to be consistent in this game, and their offense is going to be a hair better, which is why I picked Cleveland -3. Even if Deshaun Watson isn't starting.
Yeah, and be careful with Indianapolis though. They've surprised a lot of people this year, but I think with the backup quarterback, they'll struggle against a good team. All right, rolling on here, we got the Commanders heading to New Jersey to play the New York Giants. Washington -3 at the Giants. Giants got to get it together.
Yeah, but they've been playing better, right? Both of these teams had pretty good showings last week, right? Washington with the victory, the Giants against the Bills going all the way to the last play of the game, as we know. But ultimately, I cannot pick the Giants with the uncertainty of who's going to play a quarterback, the offensive line being what it is against this defensive line that does like to get to the quarterback. Washington's defense is vulnerable, but I have to take Washington -3 still until the Giants show they can do something other than kick a couple field goals.
Agreed. And I think Washington with the run game in particular, they can get that going, play good defense. We know what Tyrod's going to be if he plays. He's conservative. He'll make a couple plays in a game. He probably won't turn the ball over, but he also doesn't score a lot of points. So I'm taking Washington. All right, Las Vegas Raiders at the Chicago Bears. Las Vegas -2.5 at Chicago. Who you got here?
I'm going with the Raiders again. I mean, it's crazy to think. I just saw on ESPN today they were talking about the Raiders being buyers at the trade deadline, which is crazy to think about. Like the Raiders, no, they're not that good. They're not doing anything well. But the fact of the matter is, they're sitting at 500. They have a chance against an inferior opponent this weekend. They're favorited. They should win this game, and hopefully build on things going forward. Because as we know, that duo of Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs has not produced yet really this season. So if they could get those two guys going and really start to play up to a better level, they're going to win more games, and they're still at 500, which is crazy to think about with that team. So I like the Raiders in this one -2.5.
Yeah, and there's a Yahoo Sports reporting that Justin Fields has a slight chance to play. I don't like slight, so we'll go with I like the Raiders. I mean, I think if Justin Fields plays, it's a whole different story because he can pop a few runs, he can make plays and they can score points with him. We've seen it, but without him, I think it's a whole different story. So I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders, just because, without Justin Fields, the Bears have nothing on offense, 0, right? So give me the Raiders. Next one, the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Atlanta plus 2.5 at Tampa Bay. Very important game in the NFC South.
Yes, coming off 2 bad losses, right? Both of these teams, Falcons to Washington and Tampa Bay to Detroit, looked like they did not show up really in the last week. And a lot of questions around what both are capable of at this point. However, I trust the Falcons defense more than I trust Tampa Bay. So I'm taking the Falcons plus 2.5 in this one.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, we see them as the high flying offense, but they've only played 5 games, which is one less than a lot of people, but they're 26 in the league in passing yards. You expect that to go up a little bit once teams hit the bye. But the big thing with Tampa, they cannot run the football, right? Dead last in rushing. Just haven't seen it. Rashad White it's not making it happen for them. So yeah, I'm going to go with Atlanta in this one. I just think they're a little more capable, and both defenses playing well, but I think Atlanta has the edge on offense. Okay, the 5-1 Detroit Lions at the 4-2 Baltimore Ravens. Detroit's plus 3 in this game. This is probably the best game to watch on Sunday. Yeah, I think it's got to be the most fun one to watch.
This one is somewhat perplexing to me. Although it should be a good matchup, I agree. Baltimore is a good enough team to compete with a team like the Lions. These are teams. Baltimore had to survive against Tennessee overseas. They're coming back here. They have not clicked all season long where they look like the dominant team. They found a way to win. That's what matters. They're doing very well. Don't get me wrong. But the Lions are one of the best teams in the NFL right now, hands down. So the Lions should be favored in this game, and they're not. I know the game's in Baltimore. I don't care. The Lions should be the favorite in this game. That plus 3 is egregious to me. So I'm definitely taking Detroit plus 3. I think they win the game, and they're getting points, and they should be the favorite. Like I said, this will be a fun game to watch, though. Agreed that it should be offensively, go back and forth. What the Ravens do well and how they're going to attack the Lions defense should be interesting, with a mobile quarterback and that defense and coming after the quarterback. It could lead to big plays for Lamar Jackson, I think, and vice versa. The passing game of the Lions, the Baltimore pass defense has been very good, but I feel like the Lions are dynamic enough to overcome that. So that's why I ultimately am picking them to win and picking them with the points, obviously.
I'm taking Baltimore in this game. It's Detroit on the road. They're not going to have David Montgomery. He's out with a rib injury. And I think that's really the key to their offense is David Montgomery, right? Pounding it time after time up the middle, getting positive yards time after time. It sets up the play action, and I think they're gonna have a little bit hard time.
Gibbs should be back for this game, though.
Yep. Gibbs, totally different type of player, though, right? He's not going to be able to pound it up. He's more of like the James Cook, let's dump it off receiver type guy. It's a little harder to set up the play action with that. I think the Ravens pull out a win at home.
Okay. I like that rationale, at least.
All right, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Los Angeles Rams. Both these teams surprising to be 500 or better. Pittsburgh plus 3 at LA. Who you got?
Well, the Rams are home. They've got their best player back in Cooper Kupp. I think that they are clicking on all cylinders and finding a way to get it done, period. And they're at home. Pittsburgh has gotten lucky, to say the least, against divisional opponents. I mean, they're a good team, obviously. They have a really good defense, obviously. Their offense is pathetic. So although the Rams might give them opportunities to score a few points, I think the Rams offense has a much better chance of getting going against a great Steelers defense than the Steelers offense does against a good Rams defense. So give me the Rams -3 in this one.
And this one's interesting. I mean, the teams seem to be pretty equal. I think the Rams are the better offense, but I think the Steelers are the better defense. But when they play in LA, there's always a lot of Steelers fans in the stands, right? It seems like it's equal. The cheering's equal. So there's really no home field advantage. I think I take the Steelers with the point. Well, it could be close. +3 is a little slim for me. If it was 4, I think I would go Steelers. But I'll just take the Steelers to win. I was going to say Rams win and then Steelers cover.
All right.
Yeah, I'll take the Steelers to win outright then. All right, Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. Arizona plus 7.5 at Seattle. What you got?
Yeah, I think Arizona, although they've been able to stay competitive in games and they've beaten the spread multiple times this season, Seattle's coming off a very difficult loss to the Bengals, and they need to bounce back in a big way against a divisional opponent. It's very similar to what we were talking about with the Bills, right? You've got a last place team facing a contending team that needs to reestablish themselves as, a dominant force. I think this is a game where Seattle gets right. Okay, they're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to pass the ball. Expect a big day from Geno, who crapped the bed in the last game. So give me the Seahawks big time in this one.
Yeah, I'll take the Seahawks at home as well. Bounce back game, like you said. I agree with that. And really, the Seahawks are so balanced. With Kenny Walker back, they are just such a balanced team right now. So I like them. All right, Green Bay coming off the bye at the Denver Broncos. This one looks pretty even. Green Bay -1 at Denver.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, quarterback play from Jordan Love, it's concerning at this point. But, I mean, the Broncos can't score points, right?
Yeah, exactly. Fact of the matter is one of these teams has to win, unfortunately. Most likely anyway. And on the unlikely event of a tie, one of these teams has to end up with a victory. Neither one of them deserve it. Period. End of story, right? They both play like crap. Green Bay has not looked good at all with Jordan Love. Very inconsistent, to say the least. Aaron Jones still questionable for this game, although he's back at practice. They're probably not going to use him much, if at all. The Broncos, they're starting to cut and trade players already. The rebuild is in full motion. The locker room is lost. I think, there's a lot of questions around Russell Wilson. I don't want to pick either one of these teams, but I took Green Bay -1 because I just feel like they won the coin toss of who's going to come up in this game.
Right. And this game really, for me, comes down to Javonte Williams for Denver and A.J. Dillon for Green Bay, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a ground and pound style game all game long. But really, Jordan Love doesn't have to make a lot of mistakes. If he doesn't make those mistakes, I think Green Bay could win. I mean, the Broncos, I think, are dead last in defense, right? Just haven't put it all together. And then, I think, the Broncos versus the Green Bay defense, I think, is a lot more challenging. The Green Bay defense is formidable. So I'm taking Green Bay out west.
There you go.
All right, the other great game to watch is the Miami Dolphins at the Philadelphia Eagles. This should be a real test for Miami, right? We've seen them play Buffalo and get smoked. I mean, they have beat some good teams, but I think Philadelphia is probably the best team in the league, and this will be a real, challenge or measuring stick for Miami.
Yes. That being said, Philly has not played great the last couple of weeks, right? They lost to the Jets. Maybe that was a wake-up call for them to play better, right? However, those things that were exposed versus the Jets, although Miami's defense is nowhere near what the Jets are, not even the same style or anything, I think the offense of Miami can expose a little bit of the weakness in Philly. Don't get me wrong. I also expect this is going to be a shootout, right? This is going to be a duking fight, right? It's going to be blow after blow. I'm betting the over in this game for sure. However, my gut, which I always trust, is telling me that Miami's going to win this game, right? That does not mean that I think Miami is a better team than Philly. But right now, I think Miami is clicking on all cylinders, playing better football. Philly is coming off a bad loss, they're going to be trying really hard, which I think leads to mistakes in certain situations, especially for a team like that they're not this established, unlike the Buffalo Bills, for example. Sean McDermott, that team, it's a well-oiled machine. This Eagles team is fairly new to the winning styles, right? Last year thrust into, making it all the way to the Super Bowl, but their winning ways were new in that year. Now this team is dealing with adversity for the first time, trying to figure that out. Like, okay, well, we were the best team. Now what? And I think they'll bounce back just fine. But that Miami offense is legit, as we all know. And I think that is going to be the reason they win a tight game. So give me Miami with the points here.
Okay, taking Miami. I'm actually going to go Philly just because, we've seen Tua struggle against good defensive lines, as a lot of quarterbacks do. And this defensive line is the best in the league, right? And I think the Miami offensive line is going to struggle. It's going to throw off Tua's reads. And I think, Philadelphia with A.J. Brown can keep pace. So I like Philadelphia in this one.
Obviously, I'm rooting for the Eagles to win. I mean, we want Miami to lose. Don't get me wrong. So, lose nice. Miami, please, Philly. We're all Philly fans this week.
Fair. And then we got another bounce back game. The 49ers at the Minnesota Vikings. San Francisco -6.5 at Minnesota. How are we feeling about this one?
Probably unlike a lot of people for me. I still think Minnesota is a good team, and they're not getting the respect that they deserve. You've heard me say that over and over again. The lines do not reflect what I think they do. This is another one. I'm taking Minnesota with the points. +6.5 at home. San Francisco coming off a bad loss where they were a little bit exposed. Christian McCaffrey banged up. What's his name? Their left tackle banged up.
Trent Williams.
They might both play in that game. However, Minnesota is playing for their lives. If they lose this game, they fall into a very big hole, and it looks like their season is done, right? In the NFC, anything's possible, so they can still make the playoffs, but it's going to be a very hard-fought battle. So I think Minnesota's going to come all out in this one, even without Justin Jefferson. Their team as a whole is built to withstand and play up to their opponents. I want to pick them to win, Minnesota. I want to pick them to win this game. And in my picks, I did. I'm not 100% confident they're going to win. I am much more confident that they're going to cover a 6.5 point spread, and this will end up being like a field goal game because of San Francisco being a little more vulnerable than they usually are, and the fact that their backs are against the wall. It's put up or shut up. You're going to get their absolute best effort. And the way Kirk Cousins has been playing with the connection to Addison, the rookie, I think that ends up not making up for the loss of Justin Jefferson, because nothing can make up for that, but supplementing that relationship a little bit and giving them a little bit more firepower. They're able to run the ball too. Now, against the San Francisco defense, you're going to have to find a way, but if you can claw and scratch, which I think this team is good at, they could stay in.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea, and it's a cute idea that they're the Vikings are playing for their lives, because they kind of are. But again, you're playing,
one of the best teams in the NFL.
one, two, or three best team in the league who's coming off a loss, and you don't have Justin Jefferson, the player you need for this type of game. I think the San Francisco 49ers defense locks up TJ Hawkinson, and the Vikings have no options. You know what I mean? So who are you going to rely on? I mean, there's a couple good players there, but I mean, this San Francisco defense is stubborn, right? So, I think San Francisco has an easier time moving the ball on offense, and then the defense just shuts down Minnesota. And I think the 49ers win by 10.
Okay.
All right, Monday Night Football. No, I think actually San Francisco's Monday night, right?
Yeah, they are.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Sunday Night Football.
You skipped one.
The Los Angeles
Sunday Night Football is Miami, Philly.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, they're out of order.
You just missed
here.
This one. Yeah.
This was an add-on later. All right. 4:25 p.m. football.
Third time's the charm.
The Los Angeles Chargers take on the Kansas City Chiefs for the AFC West. I don't want to say division, because that's not true. This is probably Kansas City's division in the back.
Yes.
But LAC +5.5 at Kansas City. Always a great game when the Chargers go to Kansas City, right?
Yes.
Always a great game.
That being said, too, take everything I just said about the Vikings and apply it to the Chargers. You got embarrassed last week. You should have won a game. You didn't. It was on the national stage. You look like the laughing stock of the AFC because you have this amazing roster and you don't know how to win. Get it together, right? And even Herbert looked like garbage last week. I expect them all to step up this week. Playing Kansas City, they always play their best. As you said, their backs are against the wall. They have a lot to prove. That being said, I'm taking the Chargers with the points. and Kansas City to win the game, unfortunately. Because Kansas City has not been playing their best football. However, they find a way to win. But 5.5 in a division rival game where you expect it to be at least at most a 3-point game, if not a 1-point game. Give me the Chargers with the points at 5.5.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. There's so much material with the Chargers. We should do a whole show on them.
I know.
Why aren't they using Quentin Johnson? What's going on there?
Yeah,
they don't use him.
About it. Yeah,
they just don't.
Especially after losing your number 2 guy. So
right.
Yeah.
So that's concerning. I mean, they throw the ball to Keenan Allen a lot, and for good reason, right? He's a great route runner. He still has it, right? He looked great last week. Mm-hmm. Herbert missed him on maybe 2 or 3 key plays in the game. 2 of them, I think, would have been touchdowns.
Wide open. Yeah, I mean, it was
close.
Oh.
So the Chargers, I mean, that could have been a blowout if it hit those 2 throws, So I think the Chargers can keep pace with Kansas City, and I think the difference is the Kansas City defense has been playing lights out this year. Right? Currently, they're 7th in the league in yards allowed. They're 7th best. They do blitz a lot, but they seem to be better than they have been in previous years. This early in the season, right? We've seen flashes from the Kansas City defense. But really, the question for this game is: can Justin Herbert, bounce back? Can he bounce back and be like the guy they need him to be? And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm just going to take the Chargers to win in Kansas City.
Go Chargers!
Because I say it every year, and it's always really close. Maybe this is the time.
Finally,
right? This might be the time. But I mean, you got a young receiving core in Kansas City. This might be the opportunity, right? There's a little bit of inexperience there. They're still feeling it out a little bit. I think they're starting to get some traction. But I like the Chargers offense. If they can put it together, and I think they will in Kansas City because this is the game of the year for them. I think they put a game together finally and upset Kansas City. And then the Chargers will Charger next week.
Kansas City's due for a vulnerable loss, right? They've been escaping everything, but they usually do lose a few in this beginning of the season.
And you have a healthy Eckler. I mean, that's important for the Chargers. Really, I thought they had a good game plan against Dallas, just didn't execute, and I think they could upset the Chiefs in Kansas City. I like it.
Go for it.
Here we go.
That's what we want to see. Again, we're rooting for that option.
That's it. It's the end of the road. A lot of bye weeks this week. So
I know, right?
Only 12 games. We didn't do the Thursday night game.
Oh, yes.
Kicking off here.
Jacksonville. Yeah.
Is it Jacksonville, New Orleans?
Yes. I picked Jacksonville in that one. Hopefully that pick stays. I think the line has changed because, there were a lot of questionable players that are announced to play. Trevor Lawrence is in the game. He's playing. So he was banged up. At one point, the line was, I think I bet the Jaguars when they were plus 2.5, which was crazy to me because I expect the Jaguars to win the game. But that line might have moved now to like Jaguars minus 1 or 2. Either way, I'm taking the Jags to win the game. I think they're the better team all around.
They've been playing really well. I mean, the Saints defense is pretty formidable. So that might give them some problems. And really, you just got to see more from the Saints offense. And I know Jamal Williams is playing, right? Back off the IR. That's big for them, right? I think that ground and pound sets up Derek Carr. It's a lot like Detroit, right? With Derek Carr. He can't really run around, so you have to rely on the play action. I think that works for them. So I think I'll take the Saints in this one.
All right.
That's all we got. Be sure to check out Anthony's Pick 6 for Week 7, 6 best bets of the week. The record's good again, right? You're crushing it with the record overall.
Yeah, 64% still on the season this year. And even my total, I think I just sent it to you. Every year I do all of the picks. So I pick every game, the winner against the spread, and the over-under. And this season I'm at like 56%. So with all of those picks, my pick 6, especially my favorite 6, 64%. So a huge boost even with that. And this week, even though there's a lot less games, I still feel pretty good about the 6 I'm going to put up.
Perfect. Yeah, it's getting tougher. I mean, last week we saw 2 undefeated teams go down. That happens in the NFL, but seems to be getting tighter and tighter, right, as the season goes on, because everybody's getting better and better at their plan, getting accustomed to the game. We're almost halfway here, so played a lot of football to this point. Be sure to tune in with us next week for the Buffalo Morning Brew. that comes out on Tuesday, and we'll talk about Bills Patriots, and then Thursday we'll have an adjusted Sunday preview for Week 8, starting with Bills Tampa Bay. It's in Tampa Bay, I believe, right?
It's in Buffalo.
In Buffalo, so it's in Buffalo. So Tampa Bay to Buffalo. That'll be a fun one to pregame. So tune in for that next week.
Yep, should be a fun week to do it on game day. We'll see how that goes. I'll have to have the suit on for those of you who are loyal Hoof listeners from a long time ago. I used to wear the suit all the time. There's some questions on that, but game day, I'm wearing the dang suit. There's nothing that can do about that.
Hell yeah.
Anyway,
crush it.
Thanks for kicking it with us.